I don't begrudge anyone getting a pay rise, but we're seeing taxpayers on the hook to prop up both public and private sector wages. $3.5 billion of your money on a massive wage hike for those privately employed childcare workers. It was only last year the government spent $11 billion increasing the wages of privately employed aged care workers. And back in the Gillard years, they gave disability workers, again, not employed by taxpayers, these are private workers, a whopping 23% wage increase. Joining me now to discuss this and more, Pauline Hanson's Chief of Staff, James Ashby, and Liberal Senator Alex Antic. Well, James, explain this to me. Why on earth are taxpayers paying for the wages of employees that are not government employees? These are for-profit, private sector employees. This is buying off the unions, isn't it? And it's an attempt to buy votes.
Yeah, it is. Some of these areas like childcare are some of the lowest paid workers in the country. However, it is not up to the government to set the wages for some of these staff. The other thing that I get quite disgruntled with is the fact that while they're giving the increases, they're not moving the threshold on payroll tax either. So a lot of these businesses, not only are they forced to then pay higher wages, but a lot of them then start to enter the payroll tax bracket or increase their payroll tax obligations. And as we know, here in Queensland, it's a sinister tax which is designed to hurt businesses for employing more people and paying them more. And I think a lot of the time, if we got rid of this hideous tax across the country, it's a state-imposed tax, you'd probably find that bosses were more inclined to give their workers a pay increase anyway. So I think government have just got to get out of the way, let the market set this, not the Albanese government for the sake of buying votes and appeasing their union masters.
Alex Antic, this push for a digital ID announced by Bill Shorten, we're told it will happen at the end of the year. I remember that COVID app that came out from the Morrison government, cost us about $70 million, had about 2 men and a dog take it up. It was an absolute shocker. I'm not so confident the government's going to get this right. I'm worried about my information. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Peter, you should be worried about your information. We all should be. I mean, there's a number of different layers to this. The first one is this Digital ID Act that was passed earlier in the year is setting up the framework for a digital surveillance state in this country. And it wasn't that long ago in the 80s when people were marching the streets about the Australia card. Well, we've now seen the Australia card in digital form on steroids roll out, and many of us who opposed that bill going through made the warning that this would become mandatory very quickly. I mean, the Act says it doesn't, but this will creep into our everyday lives, and within months, the Albanese government is rolling out a new version of the same thing. So that's the first thing. People being tracked is the first thing. The second thing I'd say is I have no confidence in governments being able to keep our data safe. I mean, the private sector struggles enough. We've seen numerous data breaches over the private sector, and we've seen numerous on Parliament House hacks and all sorts. So this is a massive honeypot of data that will be built for hackers who will just go to this like moths to a flame. This is a really bad idea. That's why I've introduced a digital ID repeal bill into the Senate, and it's been co-sponsored by a number of other senators, Canavan, Babbitt and others, and Roberts and Hanson, I should say. This is bad law, and we are walking into a digital surveillance state trap in this country.
James, the federal government's released its new federal science objectives. This is for the curriculum. They want science to have, quote, an Indigenous outlook. What the heck's this mean?
Yeah, good question. It sets a very dangerous precedent here because AUKUS, as we know, was designed to be an intelligence and defence strategy with the US and the UK and Australia to protect the Indo-Pacific region. Got nothing to do with Indigenous people. I don't think they've got any expertise in defence unless they've been raised up through the ranks. They've worked their way through the ranks in that department. But apart from that, we shouldn't be consulting with anybody apart from those within defence. Certainly not Indigenous people. They've got no say in this. Again, it's Labor trying to slowly but surely implement that voice to Parliament they thought they were going to get through last October.
Not wrong. Hey, Alex, I suspect you're getting the same messages I'm getting from religious and faith leaders. Really angry today that the government has now dropped their election promise to protect religious freedom. I mean, this goes all the way back to Malcolm Turnbull in the same-sex marriage debate, saying if there is a change to same-sex marriage in this country, we would protect from discrimination anyone who disagrees as a matter of faith. The laws weren't done by him or Scott Morrison, and now neither by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And people are worried. The faith-based communities are concerned by this, and they should be. This has been a bizarre episode where the Albanese government started talking about this bill and it wouldn't talk to its own caucus about it. Then it, I think, had non-disclosure agreements and it wouldn't allow the bill to be discussed with faith leaders. And then it pulled it. And we hear, it's reported from the Prime Minister today that one of the reasons why it was pulled was he didn't want to have a divisive debate about religion just sort of less than 12 months after he was prepared to have a massive divisive debate over the voice referendum. So it doesn't make any sense. When you look at it through the prism, though, of this kind of push towards pushing against churches and faith-based organisations, we see that through the proposed amendments to the Sexual Discrimination Act to remove the ability for schools to hire and fire based on people's views in their own institutions. It becomes more clear. But the Albanese government has to sort this out quickly because there is trouble in the ranks with the faith communities, I can tell you.